Good evening to all of you. It is exactly 7:30 and we have a tight schedule, so I will immediately start to welcome you in the midst of the KNW. My name is Kitty Zijlmans. I'm Emeritus Professor of Contemporary Art History and Theory / World Art Studies at Leiden University. And I'm also member of the KNW since 2010, and I will be the moderator of today or tonight. It will all be in English, as is obvious from my starting, and it's also recorded. So if you have a problem there, let us know, but it's a recorded session. Not a live stream, but a recorded session. We have a beautiful evening tonight. We're all in for an inspiring evening, which is very broad and also very topical. The series is called Heet van de Naald, and if there is one subject important today is Iran. And so today we will encounter presentations, music, poetry, fine arts, the whole range actually of what makes academia and art go together. And I'm, again, very happy that this is exactly happening in the KNW these days, where the arts also have this position within or next to or complementing or whatever you call it in exchange with academia. Encountering Iran, politics, culture, and international relations is the topic of tonight. Let me get my small notes. Before I continue, I would first like to thank very warmly Asghar and his team for making this, composing this evening, this program, together with the KNW. And especially thanks go to Martine Koot, Irene van Houten and Jana Wittekam, and of course the technical staff, the technical support. They're not visible, but they're there and they're very important. So maybe I can get a warm applause for the organization and the KNW. We have 1.5 hours, and afterwards there is time for Q&A, so questions, answers. That will be a session of about 15 minutes. It's not very long, so if you have questions, please keep them short. And there is afterwards time over drinks to further discuss and exchange with each other. So we will have music and reflection, and we will enjoy the many facets of what makes a beautiful culture so rich as it is, the one of Iran in this case. I would like to start to introduce Asghar Sayed Ghorab, who is a colleague from Utrecht University, professor of Persian and Iranian and Persian studies, and the organizer, the brainchild of this evening. So the floor is yours, Asghar, please.
So, welcome everyone. So thank you, Kitty, for this warm introduction. Because of the time, I have squeezed actually 3 lectures that I gave in Utrecht in one presentation of 10, 12 minutes. So I go very quickly through my slides. And if you have any questions, you can ask me afterwards. I hope I will be clear for all of you. What I'm going to talk about is about Iran. What does Iran mean for Iranians from inside to outside, from within? What are the actually connotations of Iran as a term? So not Iran as a nation state, but Iran as a term and how we use it in the field of Iranian and Persian studies. So Iran linguistically refers to Iranian languages. There are more than 100 languages, Iranian languages in different periods. We have also different peoples who speak different Iranian languages, like Kurdish, Pashtun, Gilaki, you name it, there are many. But also geographically, we have Iran, we call it Iranian Plateau, and that's actually also something I'm going to talk about it very, very quickly. And also something very important is, what is Iranian culture? So Iranian culture that I grew up, or many Iranians actually grew up in this culture, consists of three cultures: pre-Islamic Persian culture, Islamic culture, Sunnism, mysticism, and Shiism, and European culture. European culture is also part and parcel of Iranian culture. Going back to languages, Persian and Iranian languages belong to the family of Indo-European languages. In this theory, people or linguists think that there is a proto-language, an Ur-language, Indo-European it is called, and Persian is, or Iranian languages are a branch of this family. So what you can see on the right hand from your side, you see Iranian languages, and then left below here you have Dutch. There are many cognate words such as barodar, brother, dokhtar, dochter, father, pedar, madar. There are many of these words that are cognate and actually belonging to each other. And they are in many Indo-European languages are the same. And as you can see on the globe, the pink part is Indo-European languages, and you see Europe, and below Europe you have Turkey, is a different language, and then we have Persian and Iranian languages, which goes to actually to the border of India, even China, and this is the what we call the whole area that you see on the map. In this map, you see it even better, Iranian Plateau. And this is a big, very vast area of Iranian peoples, Iranian languages, and what connects them is not only languages, which are similar to each other, but also culture, culinary recipes, you name it, they are more or less the same. Having said this, so this is actually starts with the northern of China, Pamir Mountains in Tajikistan, through Afghanistan, Central Asia, Iran, Caucasus, part of Turkey, and then down to the Persian Gulf region. It is all actually called Iranian Plateau. And in this big, vast area, as I said, there are three cultures. Pre-Islamic culture is very dominant, especially because of literature, mythology, religions. I have religion, but should be religions, plural, and the way, the state of the politics, how to run a country. Another is Islamic Shiite culture, which actually runs through Persian culture, and the third one is the European culture. And European culture, I mean, I do not go before BC to the Greek invasion in Iran, but actually to the 19th century. I will come back to it. And this European culture changed everything, actually forever, in Iran. How Iranians look at the world, that's also very important to know. Iranians look at the world, the Iranians see themselves as the center of the world. at least in the mythology of Iran, in the literature of Iran, in the art of Iran. We have several concepts, several structures, and one of them, which is very famous and very popular, is called Haft Keshvar, or 7 regions. The land of Iran is in the center, and all the other parts of the world are around it. And this is actually also something that you see in Ferdowsi's Epic of the Kings, the national epic of Iran, in Haft Peykar by Nizami, but also many other sources, geographical sources, historical sources, and even religious sources. You see actually this structure that starts everything with Iran, and this is the middle of earth, and is the best area to live. If you go to another area, you will be darker or whiter, which is not good. The best fruits are actually from this area. And this is also not very unique, because the Greek, they had also the same structure, but differently. And the Greek actually knew this structure. And then the term Iran. The term Iran, as you know, many of you know, it was changed from Persia to Iran in 1935 by Reza Shah, because he wanted actually to name Iran in the same way that Iranian called the country, and also he had some sympathies with the Nazi Germany. But the term Iran appears in many, many sources, and here is one source that many Iranians actually know by heart. همه عالم تن است و ایران دل نیست گوینده زین قیاس خجل چون که ایران دل زمین باشد دل ز تن به بود یقین باشد. So the entire world is the body while Iran is the heart. So my point is that the term Iran is used from medieval period, especially if you go back to 10th century with the work by Ferdowsi. He uses abundantly the word Iran. And actually how Iranians perceive Iran in modern times, this is actually from Shahnameh. I will also come back to it. Many verses of Ferdowsi, for instance, the first one, دریغ است ایران که ویران شود کنام پلنگان و شیران شود. These are from 10th century, beginning of the 11th century, but every Iranian knows all these lines by heart. It is very unique that Iranians know, and Iranians use this terminology to express themselves and their compatriotism, love for Iran, and how they actually behave towards their own country. And these 7 regions I was talking about, we can also see it in the maps. In medieval maps, you see here land of Iran, Iran Zamin, Iran Shahr, called in Iran in Persian. But with the coming of the Arabs, Arab Muslims in 7th century, gradually the religious aspect came actually also in the center. As you can see, in the center of this map is the Kaaba. And Kaaba in previous maps was actually periphery. So it means that Islam has become actually part of Iranian culture. Another point that many people ask me oftentimes is that why are Iranians so proud? And how do they behave towards what, for instance, Trump is saying in the last weeks. And that actually has to do with the feeling of pride, but also cultural heritage. Iranians are very conscious of their own culture, and especially the carrier of this culture is art and literature. So my colleague Ahmad Ashraf says, very pointedly, a long sentence, but very important, a deep feeling of pride in Iran's cultural heritage with Persian literature as its core element, a consciousness of continuity in a long and distinctive history of the country, particularly a belief in the ability of the Iranian peoples to survive recurrent periods of upheavals, have served as a cohesive force to resist and ultimately overcome divisive currents. So, in other words, even the wars that are inflicted, incurred on Iran, Iran will survive, no matter what. This actually because of the consciousness and heritage. And the Persian literature, my colleague, my eminent colleague who died several years ago, Ehsan Yarshater, he says that the Persian literature, especially Persian poetry, is the jewel in the crown of Persian culture. And this Persian language, Persian poetry, was a lingua franca. Many people do not know that. But the lingua franca in a large area, and in this one, on this map, three empires, the Mughals in India, the Safavid Empire in Iran, and the northern part of the Ottoman Empire, not the southern part. And all these people, they created works of art and contributed actually to Persian culture. We call it in our field Persianate. That is actually works that are made, that are produced outside the Persian-speaking areas. A big jump to 19th century, because after the nation states, in the 19th century, the start of the nation states, the role of Persian diminished. And as you can see, Iran became backward. The military aspect of Iran was underdeveloped, and Russia started wars in the 19th century, at least 4 or 5 wars, and Iran lost many territories, as you can see, the Caucasus and also in Central Asia. And Iran realized that they have to reform, especially in military sense. So what they did, that's actually the start of the impact of the West that became part and parcel of Iranian culture. So what happened, not only Western political philosophy was introduced into Iran, the attempts to abolish monarchy and establishing democracy, constitutional form of government, the art of printing was very unfamiliar for Iran. Education, that's also extremely important, and most important of all, at least for this period, was a Western model military system that started in 1851. And one example of this impact, so it is the impact of the West, but also abuse, misuse, I don't know how to call it, for Iranians is abuse. Discovery of oil in Iran, it started in 1900, and British, they made a monopoly, a concession, tax-free, entirely tax-free, to William Darcy for 60 years. And they paid only 16% of the total profit to Iran. And in 1933, during Reza Shah, they changed it a bit, but still it was not fair. It was not 50-50. What happened in the 1950s was the Mohammad Mossadegh, many of you know him. He tried actually to have a fair deal with British government, but Churchill was against it and didn't want to accept it. So Iranians, what they did, they started actually in the Majlis, in the parliament, they passed the oil nationalization bill, and oil became nationalized. But for 2 years, Iran could not sell anything because the Western powers, especially British, boycotted it. And what happened actually in those days, the Western powers say, why is our oil under your sands? That's actually simply what we also see today. Our interest is there in the Persian Gulf. So what do you do with that? The British intelligence service, MI6, with the help of CIA, they orchestrated a coup against Mossadegh and removed Mossadegh and brought back the Shah, who was removed from power into power again. And until today, many Iranians, not all of them, but many Iranians, they blame actually the Americans and the British, and they say the 1979 revolution was the result of this. And I come to a conclusion. The three cultures, the Pahlavi tried actually to combine pre-Islamic Iran with westernization of Iran. Islamic Revolution 1979, they actually try to downplay these two cultures and bring forward Islamic ideology, but they do not work. The three cultures should be together. And we can see it actually in the last weeks that Islamic regime, which has actually boycotted pre-Islamic symbols, signs, mythologies. They are using it to mobilize people to follow them. And this is you will kneel before Iran again. And this is actually referring to Valerius, the Roman Caesar Valerian, in Persepolis, showing that we defeated you before, we will defeat you, Trump, the West, today. And my last slide, even Mohammad Baqir Ghalibaf, who is actually the person who is partly responsible also for the killings in the January, more than probably 30,000 people, young people were killed. He uses actually all these lines from Ferdowsi to show, to bring actually people, to mobilize people. I don't know what he wants to say, but at least he wants to show that he is an Iranian and respects also pre-Islamic Iran. I will leave it at this because my time is up. Thank you.
Indeed, there's many things to tell, but there's limited time. So I would now like to ask Nilu Yekta to come to the fore. And she's a PhD from Utrecht University, working on the secularization of Iran. And today the topic will be transformations on mourning. And please, the floor is yours. Thank you.
All right, so let me just make sure this works. Okay, good evening, everyone. I would like to begin by thanking Dr. Sayed Gohrab and the organizers for the invitation to speak here tonight. These are strange times for us Iranians and for the world as well. If I were to answer a question that we've been asked often lately, how are you feeling? I would point to this artwork and say it has been nothing short of an emotional roller coaster. For me, this image captures something of our everyday reality and what it feels like to be Iranian these days, which I dare to say is messy and complicated. Oh, sorry. To briefly introduce myself, my name is Nilu Yekta, and I'm a first-year PhD candidate working together with Dr. Puyan Tamimi Arab, which is here, on Iran's secular shift. And in my research, I explore these emotions through secularity as a visible shift within Iranian visual culture, something we can see and feel in images circulating online. While it's difficult to claim from images alone that religion is disappearing from people's lives, there are clear signs of some change and decline. Here we see two strikingly different pictures. On the left, a 2020 World Values Survey reports that 96.6% of Iranians identified as Muslim. And on the right, however, a 2025 Gaman survey shows only 37.6% identifying as Shia Muslim, after waiting for demographic variables for sex, province, urban, rural, education, and age. The point here is not to compare these diagrams as a direct measure of religious change over time, but to show how different ways of doing surveys, traditional face-to-face interviews that can be influenced by fear of the state, versus anonymous VPN-based sampling produce very different pictures of religiosity in Iran. To understand these changes, I draw on Talal Assad's understanding of secularity as a shift in regimes of visibility, for example, of women and the body, allowing us to think of secularity as a visual embodied phenomenon in Iran. So an early comparison that's inspired my work comes from these two historic funerals. On the bottom, we see the funeral of poet Forough Farrokhzad in Tehran in February of 1967. And on the top, we see the funeral of poet Shiva Arastoui in May of 2025. Many of these shifts become visible in what we might call secular bodies, set against Iran's gendered and religious norms. In the top image, women are not only carrying the casket, taking on roles that are traditionally reserved for men, but also are unveiled, defying the state's compulsory hijab. In doing so, they unsettle both the gendered and religious norms and expectations of mourning. We have seen, since Women Life Freedom, not only the proliferation of these visual transformations, but also a deeper rejection of the Islamic Republic's religious narratives and emotional regime. The ways that the state tries to shape how people should feel is what I mean. In his analysis of Women Life Freedom, the sociologist Farhad Khosrowkhavar describes a revolt against theocracy in which Iranians, particularly the youth, challenge the state's long-standing culture of death, martyrdom, and mourning, and instead turn towards something very different, a pursuit of joie de vivre, a joy of living. But the patriarchal Shia narrative of martyrdom is not necessarily disappearing. Through digital spaces, these narratives are being reclaimed and reversed to honor lives sacrificed by the regime and not for it, as martyrs on the path to freedom. A part of this reclamation is the recent shift in terminology, for example, from the Arabic word shahid to Javid Nam, which symbolizes like an everlasting name. But before I actually move on to martyr funerals, I want to show this powerful image, which is based on a viral video from January 2026. A woman with a bloodied face from Boroujerd says, "I am not afraid. I have been dead for 47 years." Her words echo a familiar existential sentiment for many Iranians who have spent decades living under not merely an oppressive theocracy, but what Khosrowkhavar calls a thanatocracy, a system that sustains itself through death, violence, and fear. It captures what we might call a condition of living death, biologically alive, but still deprived of the ability to live fully. And yet, in this moment, the woman transforms this condition into something unexpected, a sort of fearlessness based on the realization that she has nothing to lose. To understand this joie de vivre that Khosrowkhavar describes, we must also understand death as its darker counterpart, which is central to Iran's aesthetic and emotional landscape both before and after the revolution. Funerals, especially martyr funerals, have therefore become really powerful sites where political expression collides with mourning as well as collective affect. These rituals reveal how embodied grief produces this visceral solidarity, binding mourners in emotional intensity, and this is amplified online. For that reason, it becomes a very interesting place to understand secularity, where questions of life, death, and sacrifice come into view. For example, and we're going to show this video in a bit. This is an archived video from December 1978 of riot victims that were killed by the Shah's forces. And if we listen closely in Farsi, we hear phrases like "Baradar Shahadatat Mubarak," which means happy martyrdom, brother, essentially. And we also see the Sinazani ritual, this rhythmic chest beating, reflecting the Shia culture of martyrdom that's rooted in Karbala. Fast forward to the post-massacre funeral videos, and in them we hear and we see Majid Reza Rahnavard's last words. He was a protester that was executed during Women Life Freedom. And in the video before he was executed, he said, "Don't cry, don't read the Quran, don't pray, be joyful, play happy music." These words became embodied in what we now see as the Raqs Soug, the mourning dance, which we'll watch together. And what we see is not only a revival of old rituals, but also transformation of emotional life. Even under state power, we see these, this meaning, affect, and collective expression emerge. And it is in this shift that I approach as a form of secularity. So secularity in my research refers to the ways life, culture, and society become organized outside the strict control of the state's religious authority, not only as the absence of religion, but the emergence of practices and emotions the religious state can't dictate. To understand life, we must also understand death and the emotional histories that shape how Iranians live, mourn, and hope as well. And so to close, I want to borrow the words of anthropologist Shahram Khosravi, who reminds us that defeat is never simply the end, but also contains within it this possibility for future revolutionary moments. His words resonate with the images and the rituals that we've seen tonight, because even in the face of repeated defeats and the constant presence of death, Iranians continue to resist. And my time is up. Iranians are dancing on the graves of their loved ones, using joy as a shield against today's darkness in hopes of a brighter tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nilu, for your beautiful insight into this aspect of Iran today and in the past. I would now like to introduce briefly Sarah Emami. She's a visual artist and designer, and she will comment on her own work. And I heard that the color blue is a dominant color in your work. So I give the floor to you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm here tonight to share a few drawings that I made in response to the protests in Iran. My presentation is called Remembering the God of the Rainbow. It all started actually during the Women Life Freedom protests when I started making these illustrations. And initially, I had the idea to make an illustration or make illustrations to educate a non-Iranian audience. Imagine riding on your bike, feeling your hair waving in the wind, and then realizing that this could be a crime. So this is how it started. But eventually, when time shifted, I went from educating about my illustrations into actually documenting, remembering the people who got killed during the protests, and honoring the lost lives of people who gave their lives in the pursuit for their freedom. One of the people who got killed during the Women Life Freedom protests is a little boy named Kian Pirfalak. He was a 9-year-old boy, and in November 2022, he was sitting in a car with his dad while they were being shot at by regime forces. His dad survived, but Kian didn't. A few days after Kian's death, a sweet video of him circulated on the internet, and he was showing a little boat that he made. He wanted to become a scientist, but he started that video with saying, "In the name of the God of the Rainbow." That phrase and his video went viral. And a lot of illustrators, not only me, started drawing rainbows related to Kian. So I also wanted to make a drawing for Kian to honor him. And I imagined the God of the Rainbow to be a woman with her hair waving in the wind. And she's holding a cat. She's a cat lover, but the cat is also resembling the map of Iran. And she is there for us, taking care of us with all of our differences and different colors. Yeah, so that is the story of Kian. And I'm actually showing also a snippet of the video where he was showing his boat. My next drawing, to honor the memory of protester Majid Reza Rahnavard, who was a 23-year-old protester from Mashhad. He was publicly executed on the 12th of December 2022 for protesting during Women Life Freedom. He was actually the second protester to be executed because of the Women Life Freedom protests. And what was interesting and actually very sad about his story is that a few moments before he was about to be hanged, he was interviewed by the Iranian state TV in an attempt actually to portray him as a disbeliever, but also to justify his execution. He was surrounded by his two executioners who were completely masked. He was blindfolded himself, and he was being asked the question, "So what have you written in your will, and how do you want people to mourn you?" And he actually becomes a hero with the following words, because he says, "I don't want people to read the Quran, I don't want them to pray, I want them to be joyful and play happy music." I made this drawing just to show how grief actually turns into life. So the words I just said are also written here in Farsi, and he is the cloud basically blindfolded, and he's also crying rainbow tears. So he became a hero to Iranian people because he also completely rejects the idea that afterlife is more important than life here on earth. This is this is a screenshot of his interview. And as you can see, I don't know if you can see it very clearly, but on both the left and right, you can see his executioners. Yeah, this is a very intense video. It's online. You can search it up if you want, but yeah. Fast forward to 2026, the 7th of January this year. I made this drawing. It says, "Fek konso pashi ina nabashan." It translates to imagine waking up one day, basically imagine waking up tomorrow morning, actually, and they're not there. And with they, we refer to the Islamic Republic. And I made this because I actually saw it on a picture. It was graffitied on a wall during the Women Life Freedom protests. But during the January protests, this image of the graffiti was being reshared again. So I created this drawing out of it, and I made a screenshot on my Instagram because you can see it was reshared and liked quite often and reposted. And I think this is because on the 8th and 9th of January, I don't know if you have followed it, but big protests were announced, and people thought they would come to the streets and actual change would happen, and it could shape their future. So this was 7th of January, and unfortunately, the 8th and 9th of January did shape the future of the Iranians, but not in a positive way. It left the people in deep grief and mourning, because according to the Times, in 48 hours, more than 30,000 people were killed. It's not, oh. And in response to the 8th and 9th of January protests, I made this drawing. It was actually commissioned by the Volkskrant, a Dutch newspaper, as you know, to accompany an article written by journalist Mina Etemad. She wrote an article for a song that says, "Az khune javanan lale vatan damid." Sorry, I confused. "Az khune javanan vatan lale damide." Yeah, sorry. Which actually translates to, from the blood of the youth, tulips rise. I think what I wanted to show with this drawing was also the scale of the killings and the murders that were happening, but maybe also the loneliness Iranians were experiencing during that time. There was a complete internet blackout. I think a lot of people in the media also didn't believe that this could have actually happened. Unfortunately, the internet blackout is still ongoing. For weeks, just like actually Nulu just showed in her presentation, we had been witnessing funerals day after day after day. And what you could also see, according to Nilu's presentation, is that Majid Reza's wishes actually did happen. So people started mourning by playing music, by dancing, even celebrate weddings of their children, the weddings that never happened. And it was a new way of mourning, but also a way of resistance. People actually took matters in their own hand by celebrating their loved ones and honoring their loved ones in this way. I have 3 more minutes, but I actually would like to finish that no matter how hard the Islamic Republic has tried to distort these narratives and stories and erase the voices of these people, these brave lives will continue to be remembered.
Bravo, Sarah. I'm absolutely impressed how you translate these incredibly sad stories and dire events into visual poetry, which is absolutely amazing. Thank you for that. I would now like to ask Zinja Nourian, who is a postdoc researcher at Utrecht University, and she's going to recite 2 poems in Persian, and one from Fatemeh Shams, and the other from Simin Bey Bahari. Excuse my pronunciation, I think I skipped a lettergreep. So the floor is yours.
Yeah,
thank you. Thank you in advance.
Just to check. Oh, yes. No? This is... Yes. So the first poem that I am going to recite for you, as Kitty said, there are 2. The first one is about war, and the second one is about rebuilding Iran. And I recite in Persian, and you see the English translation. جیم مثل جنگ بود و گلوله می‌بارید. زنده ماندن چه کار سختی بود. هر طرف را نگاه می‌کردند. مرگ و آوار و تیره بختی بود. باید از خانه بار می‌بستند. سمت تاریک ناکجا آباد. سمت جغرافیای نامعلوم. سمت هر جا و هر چه باد آباد.
پشت سر خانه‌ای که گم می‌شد در غبار سیاه و خاکستر، پیش رو راه سخت و ناهموار، سیل آوارگان بی سنگر. شانه‌هایش پناه کودک بود، کودک دیگری در آغوشش. سومی می‌دوید از پی مرد، تلی از خاک بود تن پوشش. مادر از پی روانه و خاموش، کوهی از بغض و بیقراری بود. چشم در چشم جنگ و از چشمش آب سرخ انار جاری بود. آه اما چه جنگ وحشی بود، چنگ میزد به روی امیدش. دزد شادی کودکانش بود، با شکرخند خشم و تهدیدش. از 3 کودک یکی نمیخندید، از 3 کودک یکی پر از تب بود. بی وطن، بی صدا و بی آهنگ، مثل یک شعر بی مخاطب بود. بازمانده کنار راهی دور، خیره در مهربانی خورشید. تا که شاید یکی رسد از راه، تا که شاید یکی هم او را دید. جنگ آمد به هیئت آدم، مرگ آمد به قامت خورشید. چشمهایش در آسمان یخ زد و دگر تا همیشه هیچ ندید. و دگر تا همیشه هیچ ندید، و دگر تا همیشه هیچ نگفت. چشمهای عزیز نازش را بست آرام بر جنایت و خفت. دوباره می سازمت وطن، دوباره می سازمت وطن، اگرچه با خشت جان خیش. ستون به سقف تو میزنم، اگرچه با استخوان خیش. دوباره میبویم از تو گل، به میل نسل جوان تو. دوباره میشویم از تو خون، به سیل اشک روان خیش. دوباره یک روز آشنا، سیاهی از خانه می رود. به شعر خود رنگ می زنم، ز آبی آسمان خیش. اگرچه 100 سال مردم، به گور خود خواهم ایستاد. که بردرم قلب اهرمن، ز نعره آنچنان خیش. کسی که عزم رمیم را دوباره انشا کند به لطف، چو کوه می بخشدم شکوه به عرصه امتحان خیش. اگرچه پیرم ولی هنوز مجال تعلیم اگر بود، جوانی آغاز می کنم کنار نوباوگان خیش. حدیث حب الوطن ز شوق بدان روش ساز می کنم، که جان شود هر کلام دل چو برگشایم دهان خیش. هنوز در سینه آتشی بجاست که از تاب شعله اش، گمان ندارم به کاهشی ز گرمی دودمان خیش. دوباره می بخشیم توان، اگرچه شعرم به خون نشست. دوباره می سازمت به جان، اگرچه بیش از توان خیش. Thank you.
The thank is entirely ours, Zinja. Beautiful, beautiful, beautifully melodic and touching. Thank you. We now go to music. And I'm looking at Pouria Jaberi and Ali Sultaninejad. Please come to your instruments. And we are going to enjoy another fascinating side of Iranian and Persian culture, and that is, of course, music. The language itself is also so musical as it is, but it will be such a joy to hear your work. And maybe you can very briefly introduce your instruments, because I couldn't remember the names.
We call this santur, and as you see which is 72
72
and
strings.
and each four there has to be one tone.
Okay, each four has to be one tone. And maybe two.
Yeah, I have also other instrument, Iranian instrument from west of the Iran, tambur,
Tambur, yeah.
and also taf. Yes.
The floor is yours.
گلخونه های وحشی دشت امیدم وقت سحر شد خاموشی شب رفت و فردایی دگر شد من ماندم تنهای تنها من ماندم تنها میان سیل غم ها رقیبم سیل غم ها گلخونه ها نامهربانی آتشم زد گلخونه ها بی مهربانی آتشم زد میخواهم از شب پس اگر گاه بمانم افسردم دیوانم آزرده جانم گلخونه های وحشی دشت امیدم وقت سحر شد خاموشی شب رفت و فردایی دگر شد مهربانی آتشم زد گلخونه ها بی مهربانی آتشم زد میخواهم از شب تا سحرگاه بخوانم افسردم دیوانم آزرده جانم گلخونه های وحشی دشت امیدم وقتی سحر شد خاموشی شب رفت و فردایی دیگر شد.
Thank you so much. It was absolutely enchanting.
Pleasure to be with you, with all of you. Thank you very much, Asad.
Thank you. Thank you. Meanwhile, I will introduce to you the next speaker, Alam Saleh, who is working at the Center for Arab and Islamic Studies at the Australian National University. And he will speak about diversity of Iranian perspectives and competing narratives. So the floor is yours.
Well. Good evening, Amsterdam. I hope you've enjoyed your festival yesterday and day before yesterday. I can see the mess in the city. Well done, you. Well, I hope I would have been in Amsterdam for another task, but I'm here just to talk about Middle East and its complexities in 15 minutes, imagine. But I'll do my best. And people say that what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But when it comes to the Middle East, that does not apply, because whatever happens in Middle East, it affects the whole entire world, be it in terms of security, societal security, energy security, and as you have just heard from our distinguished speakers, when it comes to the Middle East, it's not only about politics, it's also about history that is omnipresent. History is not the past, is deeply present and affects our shapes and reshapes our mind and the politics of the region. So I look at the issue from IR point of view, international relations and security studies in particular. And in so doing, I will look at how key historical events affects our understanding of terms and concepts and views towards a certain event. Key significant historical events, such as the demise of Soviet Union, the end of the Cold War, has changed our mind entirely. And I look at my watch to see 15 minutes when it ends. Like the end of the Cold War has reshaped the whole idea of international relations, power, deterrence, societal security, and so on. The catastrophic events of 11 September also reshaped our understanding of security entirely. What's going on today in the Middle East, actually, it's also one of those key historical events. And that's why I focus on this topic, Iran and the war, and the ongoing war, actually, and how it's shaped and reshaped this war. So I look at the causes of this war, the methods and the types of the war, and also the exit. What is the consequences, if any, in the aftermath of this war, if it finishes? As you have heard, when it comes to Iran, things are really deeply multifaceted and polar, is interrelated and interconnected. Poetry is politicized. History is politicized. Events are politicized. I always say, believe me, a single Iranian guy reads newspaper more than the Minister of Foreign Affairs in Finland, simply because everything is politicized. The daily life is politicized, and it's not something new. It's historically rooted. And this is important to see that since the establishment of the so-called modern Iran, and Professor Amanet actually calls it since the Safavid 3 centuries ago. Some would say since 1925, since the emergence of the Pahlavi era, the modern Iran. But let's say that 3 centuries. Iran has always been attempting to gain independence, has always been historically invaded by others. The others, and this is, okay, you name it, the Romans, the Macedonians, the Greek, the Arabs, the Afghans, the Turks, and then the more recent in the modern history, of course, Russians, British, Americans, and this is deeply rooted in the mindset of Iranian elites, be it politicians, diplomats, or scholars. These being able to move beyond this kind of dependency on others and being able to defend yourself, it shapes a very core mindset of Iranian politics. And this is not peculiar to the current political establishment. The Shah of Iran, Mohammad Reza Shah, was deeply concerned about dependency on the Western powers. Reza Shah, of course, actually he was a victim of this dependency, whom has been sent into exile by these global powers when Tehran was occupied by the British and Russians and Americans. And therefore, and of course, the 1953 kind of nationalization of oil in Iran, which the democratically elected Iranian prime minister was overthrown by MI6 and CIA, as Professor Asghar, I just mentioned it as well. This all actually shapes a very important part of what's going on with Iran. But the question and the problem is not only about what Iran thinks and what Iran wants. It's also about the Western powers. Iran has never been colonized, one of the only countries in the region, today countries, that has never been colonized in the past 3 centuries or so, since the European powers actually arrived, including Dutch, Portuguese, and British, and of course, later on, the Russians and French. But the question is that Iran has always been located in a very geostrategically important region. It's been very important for this great power politics in the region since the British coming to the region and the importance of India. And therefore, in one way or another, Iran has always been in the center of this kind of power dynamic in the region. Be it British using Safavids to confront Ottomans, being British using Iran to kind of contain Russians in reaching India and the Persian Gulf region. This is historically. And in the advent of the 20th century and the discovery of oil, of course, Iran became even more important. The region became so important. And this is my argument today, is that this war that has happened almost 2 months ago is not only about Iran. It's about geopolitics of the region. It's about the global power dynamic and the shift, because we are witnessing the shift of power from the West to the rest. That doesn't mean that the Western powers are weakening. It means that the other countries, the rest of the world, there are emerging global powers that are defying, that are challenging the Western powers. BRICS, Russia, China, India, Brazil, South Africa, and some regional powers, Iran, also are challenging these 2 centuries of Western-dominated, the so-called world order. This West-led world order is challenged by the rest of the world. That means the rest of the world is no longer relying or needing or dependent on Western technology, Western economy, Western politics, Western industries. They have alternatives. And this is, of course, the West is still so powerful and is not weakening. But what I'm trying to say is that these emerging global powers are challenging it and are trying to find alternative to the West. For instance, Iran is trying to find alternative to the West by shifting towards the East. Shanghai Cooperation Organization is an example, BRICS is an example, and so on. And this is, of course, is concerning United States so badly because, of course, the strategic opponent of United States is China, is not Iran. But Iran is located in perhaps one of the most strategically important regions and is not only geographically so important, is big, with large population, very well educated, a potential to become highly industrial and advanced. It has a nuclear technology, it has a satellite sky kind of thing is technology at the moment. It has a military kind of power, and this is not something that makes United States happy. Okay, moving beyond this is also about oil. Is not only about Iran's oil and gas. Iran is very rich in terms of oil and gas, but also about Iran being dominating in the region geographically into many neighboring countries that are also very rich in terms of oil and gas. That means if you control Iran, you are not only controlling its oil in your kind of rivalry between the West and China, but also you have a full control of not only the Persian Gulf, Arab rich oil and gas countries, but also in the north, Turkmenistan and Azerbaijan. So some of the key producers of energy security in the world are neighboring Iran. And of course, Iran itself is also rich, one of the 3-4 countries in the world when it comes to oil and gas. So this is perhaps what's going on in the region at the moment is part of a larger opposition of the international and global change. And that's why we see that when it comes to Washington and President Trump himself, you see lots of contradictions when it comes to the rhetoric in justifying this war. Once he says, I want the regime change, okay. I want a complete surrender, okay. I want oil, he said it, I want oil. And then once he said no nuclear program, okay, no military kind of power and so on. So even we see here discrepancies when it comes to justifying this war, because he is right. It's all about everything. It's about Iranian civilization, it's about military power, it's about Iran being technologically advanced when it comes to the nuclear program, okay? And the nuclear program is not peculiar to the Islamic Republic. Actually, it started in 1950s. In 1960s, actually, it's been advanced. And even at that time in 1970s, United States actually refused in helping Iran to enrich uranium inside Iran. So exactly what's happening now has happened in mid-1970s during the Shah, when the United States asked the Shah of Iran to invest in the United States, and the United States enriches uranium and send it to Iran. At that time, Mr. Etemad, the head of Iran's energy security, energy program, nuclear energy program, actually told the American diplomats in Vienna that you should not treat us like a second kind of citizenship or citizens when it comes to the nuclear technology. So this is about power. And this power is not only about Iran should not become powerful. It's about the opposition of United States and China, because if Iran stays powerful in the region, that would change the balance of power in the region once and forever in favor of China and probably Russia. So it's all about this kind of international dynamic of power altogether. Okay, so this is the cause of the war, I would call it. Despite the fact, these human rights, I want to help Iranian people, I want democracy, I want human rights. If you want human rights and democracy, there are other places in the Middle East that they need you more than anyone else. Okay, and why Iran was able to at least resist 40 days of this war? Simply because the problem here is that the United States heavily relied on military power. And this is not working. Yes, power is important, military power is important. However, you should also consider ideas, ideologies, identities, Iranian nationalism, the Shiism itself, and its role in shaping this kind of confrontation with the others. Geopolitical issues that you did not consider. So Iran was able to transfer this military superiority of the United States into rather geopolitical confrontation, when using idea and identities became very important, which United States cannot understand, heavily relying on what President Trump called it a beautiful bombs. Do not destroy, they destroy buildings, but they don't change regimes. So Iran was able to expand this war, to prolong this war, to transfer this war from a military superiority into rather geo-economic war, using the Strait of Hormuz. Geography played very important role. The rule of time is important here as well, focusing on the global market. And as I've said, whatever happens in the Middle East does not stay in the Middle East. So global economy, I'm sure that we are also affected here in Europe when it comes to the oil price and so on. And last but not least, the ending this war now. So the war started with the idea of balance of power. United States is too powerful and they can win. Iran was able to shift it into balance of threats using other methods, changing the nature of the war into geography and geopolitics, and was able to resist and to survive. And now when it comes to the negotiation, Iran is using the balance of pressure. Are you pressure? I pressure. Let's see who can last longer. And this is, again, another interesting point, I mean, when it comes to, for scholars to study, is that how and why great powers are always losing. Why United States lost in Vietnam, why they have lost in Afghanistan, why they have lost in Iraq, and why a very relatively weak Iran could resist in this war by, let's say, $8 billion defense budget in Iran, and United States over $1,000 billion military budget. How can you survive? And this is exactly something that it shifts our understanding of terms and concepts that we use about power is no longer military power. Other factors play a very important role, such as, again, idea, identities, geography, and geopolitics. Okay, in conclusion, my argument is that we are entering in a new era in international relations, that the balance of power is shifting from the West to the rest. Or here again, it doesn't mean that the West is defeated, is weakened, no. It means that the rest of the world have alternative, they can resist, they no longer dependent on Western technology as much as they have been in the past 2 centuries, when the West was dominating almost every aspect of world order. And that's the shift is, as actually this war is accelerating this shift, because the United States rivals, namely China and Russia, are watching this war so closely and are asking that if you could not defeat Iran in 40 days, then how can you deal with Ukraine? How can you deal with Taiwan in the future, when China has much more geographical advantage when it comes to Taiwan compared to Iran with Strait of Hormuz? So this is the shift in our understanding of terms and concepts we have been using when it comes to international relations. Again, like key historical events, the end of the Cold War, the demise of Soviet Union, is deeply undermined realism and realist approach about power, military power, that you can be the most powerful state in the world, but again, destroy internally. But this war is also changing our terms and concepts when it comes to power, deterrence, and of course, international world order. And thank you.
Thank you.